Welcome, everyone, to the Everything Show, episode 926. I am your host, Matrixlord212, and I'm with Chris. What's up, Chris?
What's up, guys?
What's up, Night Owl?
Hi.
All right. What do we got, Chris?
Okay, so here I have spoilers for Pacific Rim Uprising and Kong Skull Island.
Uh-oh. Okay.
The Pacific Rim one's not really that bad.
Okay.
They're going to show this anyway before the movie comes out, so it's not really a big deal. The Kong one is, so if you guys don't want to see these or hear about these, stop watching now.
Yeah, spoiler 1, 2, 3, have gone.
Okay, so I'm going to screen share this. This is for Pacific Rim Uprising.
Let's see it. Here we go. Okay.
So these are 3 of the new Jaegers for Pacific Rim Uprising.
All right.
This one right here is apparently the Gypsy Danger Mark II or 3, whatever they want to call it.
Okay.
I don't know what these other 2 are. Now, the reason that they look like cartoonish has to do with the fact that these are concept art right now. This is a piece of concept art. So, obviously, they're not going to be cartoony like this.
Yeah.
But this is what we're probably going to be seeing in Pacific Rim Uprising.
They look so familiar. Like, I can't quite put my finger on it, but they look just like something else. It's weird. Like, I've seen this before. I know I have.
I'm going to be honest with you. This looks like the Megazord from Power Rangers.
Yeah, it kind of does, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that gray guy looks like somebody. I remember him.
This one does, yeah.
And the other one looks like Chappie.
It does.
It does.
But to be honest, I like the 3. I really like the Gypsy Danger design. I like that it's like slimmed down a bit.
Yeah.
I like that they kept the nuclear drive in the front. I want to see more. I'm really interested in seeing what the kaiju are going to look like. But I think these look good so far. I really want to see what their CGI renders are going to look like.
It looks cool. I mean, I think.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Other than that, there's been some concept, or not really concept art. There's been some pictures floating around of Scott Eastwood in Jaeger armor. So he is also a Jaeger pilot. And
Okay.
there was an official picture today or a couple of days ago of John Boyega sitting in like a rundown like Jaeger control center.
Okay.
So that looks cool. I'm pretty excited for this. That comes out next year. Hopefully we get some good stuff at Comic-Con for it this year. So, and we're going to be getting more news as it comes out.
That was like the only movie in my entire life that I've ever paid twice to go see.
Oh, yeah?
Wow. Okay. So that's next year, right?
Yeah.
All right. And what's going on with Kong?
So this one has this is a bit more spoilerish. This is an extended synopsis of the movie, and I'm surprised that they put a lot of this information in here. So if again, it's another spoiler warning. If you don't want to hear about Kong Skull Island, stop watching now.
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to read this synopsis. It's a little long, but it's got some good stuff. It says, the year is 1973. Somewhere in our world, it is said there exists a wondrous island unspoiled by man, a land shrouded in mystery where myth runs wild, uncharted and undiscovered. When the secretive organization known as Monarch identify this destination as the origin point for a mysterious new superspecies, they mount an expedition to discover its secrets. What they find on Skull Island is an adventure beyond any human experience. An exotic paradise of wonders and terrors where flora and fauna have fused together into an Eden of otherworldly jungle creatures. As one group fights to escape, the other declares war on Kong. We discover that the mighty primate is at the center of a battle for dominion over the island, locked in a survival of the fittest face-off with the terrifying apex predators responsible for wiping out his kin.
Oh.
Driven by vengeance, Kong will become nature's fury and fight to take his rightful place upon the throne of most powerful beast on the island, revealing the story of how Kong became king.
So he is a king.
Not yet.
But they're not gonna call him king.
Probably not at the beginning.
Okay. Gotcha.
So I think that sounds cool.
That is cool. But my question is, are they going to, like, eventually have a sequel to this movie?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think maybe his story is going to end with Godzilla.
Godzilla? Okay.
However, if that does really well, and I mean like really well, I would not be surprised if they do one more Godzilla or one more Kong movie.
Besides the third Godzilla movie?
Well, besides Godzilla versus Kong.
Which is the third one.
Yeah. Because you got to remember, too, and this was, someone made a good point about this, we have a bit more control over Kong. Well, I should say we have a lot more control over Kong than we do Godzilla. So
we could technically do Kong movies.
They could do Kong movies every year if they wanted to.
I see.
Unfortunately, from what I'm hearing, is that the new owner of Legendary is trying to go away from these type of movies.
Oh, God damn it.
So I'm pretty sure that they're going to end it with Godzilla versus Kong.
Unreal.
Yeah.
What about you, Night Owl? You're a Godzilla Kong person?
No, actually. Like, the last movie I saw was in the 2000s. I didn't like it very much.
Okay. So, now besides that, is it possible that Toho is going to let us keep Godzilla movies, or that's going to end?
What do you mean,
like beyond 3 or 4 Godzilla? Like, I mean,
it goes up to Godzilla versus Kong right now,
which is the third one.
Yeah, well,
right.
I don't really consider it a third Godzilla.
All right, but I mean,
consider it its own movie.
So, I mean, if the thing's making money, why would they pull it away? I mean, that's just...
If Godzilla King of the Monsters and Godzilla vs. Kong, if they do really well, I think that Toho will say, all right, make another Godzilla or something. That's very possible.
Okay.
But as of right now, as far as I know, Godzilla vs. Kong is the end game. And
all right.
Like I said, the new owner of Legendary wants to make a different type of movies now. He wants to do, like, I guess, Oscar-worthy movies.
Oh, my God.
So, and that's not just affecting the MonsterVerse.
That's crazy.
That affects everything that Legendary does. So...
Can't we have a Gamera versus Godzilla? I mean, can't somebody just buy that and just give it to us?
No.
No. I don't know why when I was a kid I always thought that there was one, or maybe it was a dream of mine that I wanted to have that. But
Gamera wouldn't really work too well over here. It would be a hard sell. They'd have to really overhaul him.
That'd be great to have Gamera versus Godzilla.
What was that?
They'd probably make Godzilla the villain, but I mean, Gamera versus Godzilla would be great.
I don't think we would ever get an American-made Godzilla versus Gamera. I think if they would do it, it would be made in Japan.
Toho, right?
Yeah. Toho.
Well, why can't they do it? I mean, that's what everybody wants, I think.
Yeah, my problem is if they did it, they'd probably do Shin Gojira versus Gamera.
Ew. No, don't want that. Nah.
Unless they were like, oh, it's a totally new universe and it's a regular Godzilla and...
Nah. Meh. All right. What's with these videos lately from Josh Gad with Daisy Riley, right? Daisy Ridley. Daisy Ridley, yeah. These Star Wars.
It's a comedy thing. He's trying to get information from her, and
I know it's pretty funny. But
yeah.
Do you like those? Did you see the one with Judi Dench?
I didn't. I heard that was good.
Oh,
though.
that was hysterical.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so funny though, but it's like I can't wait for friggin' episode 8.
Yeah.
The Last Jedi. What about you, Night Owl? Can't wait for The Last Jedi? I can't wait
yes,
for The Last Jedi.
I'm definitely waiting for the Last Jedi. Sorry.
All right, who's Snoke? Who's Snoke, man? Senator Palpatine? No? Plagueis? Yeah? Well, I mean, if it was Senator Palpatine, he probably got bent out of shape from like getting bounced around, or he blew up, didn't he? So
Yeah.
he's probably pieces.
If he turns into Palpatine, or if it winds up being Palpatine, I'm gonna be very disappointed.
Well, I gotta tell you, when they killed Darth Maul, and then they said that Darth Maul was alive, I was kind of pissed off a little bit because I'm like, once you start that crap, then there's no way a Jedi could die. If this guy or a Sith could die, because if this guy had his thing cut off and then he's alive running around, the possibilities are endless. Just like when we saw them leaping from car to car, I'm like, oh, Mace Windu getting thrown out the window. Now it's not believable anymore. So now everything is questioned. It's like, well, if Senator Palpatine's fighting Yoda on the Senate floor, and he's like, and he's like leaping around, holy shit, like, what the fuck? Then how could he just like,
Well, they did explain why that happened. So.
He threw him right into the reactor.
Yeah, well, not only that, but they said that Vader was holding him down with the Force.
Okay.
As for Maul, they also explained why he survived, and it made sense.
Okay.
I think everybody forgets that Darth Maul is not human.
All right. Well,
he's an alien, so he has different biology than us.
They were all aliens. I mean, they're not Earthlings.
Well, no, but I mean, if you're human, you're human.
Yeah.
That's
Did they say he survived? Like,
yeah, he's in Clone Wars and Rebels right now.
Darth Maul.
But he got cut in half.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, they explain why. They explain that he's an alien and he was able to use the dark side to keep himself from dying, which is a dark side ability.
Right.
He is a major character in Clone Wars, and he's a major character in Rebels. So much so that in this next season, he's fighting Obi-Wan on Tatooine.
That seems like a cop-out to me. They shouldn't have killed him to begin with.
Well,
another thing.
Another thing. People wanted him to come back, and they were like, "Yeah, we can bring him back."
But I mean, if Vader can come back from lava and having all parts of his body like this, he's crawling.
That's why.
He used the Force to keep himself alive.
Yep.
Right. So then the Emperor should be able to live too, no?
Well, it's a different circumstance. I mean, the Emperor got obliterated.
But maybe the Emperor learned how to cheat death from Plagueis.
Well, that is possible. He did that in the expanded universe. But my issue is that was Vader's defining moment.
Yeah.
And if you go back on that, now it's like, well, that means that Return of the Jedi didn't matter.
Unless, of course, Rey is incarnation of Anakin and Snoke is Palpatine. I mean, that's, right?
Now you're treading on,
that's getting crazy.
In my opinion, that's treading on thin ice.
First of all, I don't want Rey to be a reincarnation of anybody.
I don't think she is.
Thank God. So,
I don't know. She could be. I don't.
I don't want that. Like Luke telling him, "You are my father." It's like, what? No, I don't want that.
Would be terrible.
No, I don't want that. But Snoke, I think everybody just I was like, what the fuck? Nobody understands him at all. And you have any idea now, or you're still in the dark?
I'm still on the Darth Plagueis theory, but my new idea is that he's connected to the Wills somehow.
Could it be that, like, Darth Plagueis didn't die, but made himself? Maybe people think he was dying as he was trying to reconstitute himself, or I mean, how did he die originally?
Palpatine killed him.
No, but how did he kill him? Did he chop him into pieces? Like, what did he do?
In the old canon, he wore a ventilator, and Palpatine he got drunk because his this is legitimately how it happened. Originally, he and Palpatine were going to be co-chancellors of the Republic.
Okay.
Because Darth Plagueis, his real name was Higo Damask, and he was a very wealthy, very well-respected banker from the banking clan.
Okay.
He kind of forced his way into getting Palpatine into the Senate. He tempted Palpatine to the dark side. He caused Palpatine to kill his family. He brought Palpatine in because originally he wasn't going to have an apprentice.
Okay.
He was going to break the rule of two and saying, no, it's me. I'm going to figure out how to cheat death. I'm going to be the Sith Lord. I'm going to rule the galaxy.
Right.
Then he encountered Palpatine, and he was like, this kid has the potential to be the most powerful Force user ever, bar none. Okay? So he trained him in the dark side, and the plan worked. Palpatine became Chancellor. He was going to appoint Hiko to Chancellor. That night, Palpatine got him drunk, quote unquote.
Got
Plagueis,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Plagueis was wearing a ventilator from a prior injury that he got. And basically, Palpatine force lightninged him to death. But what they say in the book is, this is after Plagueis learned how to cheat death. But
After.
Palpatine, this is what happened. It takes a certain amount of concentration to do so. Palpatine kept him from doing that.
Because he was drunk.
He was that, and he was using force lightning to keep him from breathing. He was hitting the ventilator. And Plagueis, too, at the same time, because we know Palpatine is, like, unreal with force lightning.
Right.
That's how it killed him. And Palpatine, there's a part in the book where he says he waited a few minutes afterwards expecting his master to rise from the dead, but it never happened.
Right.
So that's the old canon. New canon, all we know is that Palpatine killed him.
But could it be possible that even though he was drunk, he was still so good with concentration that he just made himself think
Well,
that?
here's the thing. He may not have even been drunk at this point. Palpatine only says he killed him in his sleep.
Right.
The only thing that's canon with Darth Plagueis right now is the stuff from Episode 3.
Right.
So he could be.
He could be that he just brought himself back to life, but it's bad. Like, right? He's deformed and whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. My only thing, the only reason I call foul on that now is because he's a Sith Lord, and they've said he's not a Sith, Snoke. So
he's not a Sith Lord.
He's not a Sith. They said there are no Sith Lords anymore. They're gone.
But couldn't they be a Sith and then not be a Sith no more? Like a Jedi? Like, if Mace Windu was alive?
That's the one thing that helps me cling to the theory is that it's possible.
I hate all these labels. I hate all these technicalities. It was never this complicated back in the day. It was Jedi Sith.
It was even worse back then. Because there were Sith that were actually good back then.
I probably just didn't pay attention. Really? Good Sith?
There were Jedi that were evil. There were dark Jedi, there were gray Jedi, there were Sith, there were dark side users. Now it's like you're a Jedi. If you're not a Jedi, you're a Sith or a gray Jedi.
So in other words, it was Jedi that was actually evil?
There were some Jedi that were evil, yes.
And they're called Jedi?
They're called dark Jedi.
But how could they be Jedi if they're evil?
They're dark Jedi.
Ugh.
That's why they're not canon anymore, because it doesn't make sense.
Right, it's too confusing. God.
That's why they said you're either a Jedi or
you're
a Sith. And if you're not, you're in the middle, you're a gray Jedi.
Whatever. That's just unreal.
Yeah.
But now there's the Rens, right?
Well, there's the Knights of Ren, but they're not, like, that's just a name.
But are they other Rens like Darths or no?
We don't know.
Oh. Okay.
Possibly.
So there's no more Darths?
No. As far as we know.
Okay.
Because now I know that the running theory now that just came out a couple of days ago is that Benicio del Toro's character, who is he? Like, why are they keeping him such a secret?
Don't even tell me he's a Sith.
No, I don't think he's a Sith. The running theory now is that he's Ezra from Rebels.
Aha.
Which to be honest with you, I have nothing to say that he's not.
Okay. Which I'm going to have to watch Rebels. I don't know what the hell's going on.
If he turns out to be Ezra, though, that would be amazing. I would mark out for that. That would be great.
But Ezra is a bad guy or good guy?
No, Ezra's the main character of Rebels. He's he's
good guy, right?
Now. Right now being the key word there.
Okay.
Or key words, I should say.
So, here's the thing with the problem with the Star Wars stuff. Whatever's canon now, 5 years, 10 years from now, they could just make it not canon, right? Certain things.
Technically, they could, but do I think they're going to do that? Absolutely not.
Okay.
Because that's the fastest way to lose your audience.
Right. I mean, we don't want it to be too complicated, but I mean, I never liked the power of two crap either. Always two there are. The Master and the Prince. Yeah, I don't Rule 2. I don't like this. When I saw Phantom Menace, when I saw Darth Sidious talking with Darth Maul, right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking that whole area is Sith. Like, oh, that weird dark area, and this is where they cuddle, and this is where they're all like, a whole freaking city of that shit.
Yeah.
And just to think that there's only two. Because I didn't know that whole backstory, because when I was growing up, all right, we had we watched the movies or the shows or whatever. I'm talking about Star Wars. I'm gonna bring an example: Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who. Right? Doctor Who went off the air, and all we had was the novels to follow the further adventures of the Seventh Doctor. Same thing with Next Generation. Same thing with Star Wars. But then something happened when they started to make, when Next Generation, Star Trek Next Generation was on there, they didn't get along. And they're like, oh, we're just making it like all those books are bullshit, don't happen, purposely, like in the episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, what the fuck? Why am I going to read bullshit if it's not canon?
Yeah.
Like, because I used to buy everything. I bought Heir to the Empire, Dark Force Rising, Last Command, all these Star Wars novels. I used to buy the Next Generation novels. I used to buy Time Worm, the Doctor Who stuff, right? So, when I started spending all this money for this stuff and reading, and then I find out that none of this shit counts, I stopped getting it. I stopped getting Next Generation, So I got fed up, and I'm like, oh, this is bullshit now, Because, they introduce people, and even in the video games,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm, discouraged. I just, I'm, so against it. I won't get stuff anymore. Even now, I kind of, won't get it. Because at any point in time, they could be like, nope, not canon. Not canon. Even with Doctor Who stuff, it's like, oh, everything is not canon, but maybe the 8th Doctor stuff is canon, And it's because he doesn't have any episodes. And it's like, okay. So I get discouraged. I just don't want to spend money anymore. I don't like the wool being pulled over our eyes for marketing, making money, and then, it's not canon, it's crap. So that's why I just won't go for it. I just hate that. I just want something where I know what the history is, and that is it.
Mm-hmm.
And when all this stuff happens, and it changes shit, I'm like, here we go. Now, that whole thing with the Matrixlord crap, I was beyond pissed.
I agree. And the thing is, though, as much as we may not like it, that is still canon.
Right. And I also was pissed that, because, again, seeing the original movies, you envision what the prequels would be.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they do weird shit, like, oh, he became evil to save Padme. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what? Like a love? What is love? Like, I'd be like, seriously? Like, it's like, oh, here we go. And then you see, Jedi that acting like dicks. Like Mace Windu, and he's like, oh, you're not supposed to do that. They're all the Jedi Council, if you remember, they seem like a bunch of a-holes.
The Jedi Council are probably some of the biggest morons in the whole galaxy.
Yeah.
No joke.
I'm like, wow, what a dick. They're all dicks.
Yeah, this is the thing, right? Qui-Gon goes there, and he's like, I just fought this thing that I think is a Sith.
Yeah, they're all assholes.
Right? But this is what Mace Windu says. He's like, we will use all of our resources to discover who your attacker is. He's like, okay. Then they're like, oh, Naboo's been taken over by the Gungans. Or by the Gungans. By the Trade Federation.
You don't like the Gungans? Yeah, all right, yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't. But
yeah.
then they're like, go to the planet and take care of this. You're not going to send a couple of Jedi to do this?
I know. It's like, we don't have a budget for you to go because, money, the movie,
Even if they said, you know what, we're going to send 5 more Jedi with you.
Right.
Just in case.
Right.
Okay. And then when Qui-Gon, when they're like, no, you can't train Anakin because we think he's too dangerous. He's like, oh, well, I'll just do it anyway. One of them should have been like, no, you won't, or else we'll put you in prison.
Right. Yeah, and even
Sorry,
Yoda was a jerk a little bit. I was like,
sorry to interrupt here, but
okay,
I think I have to go. I
All right,
can't
dude.
keep my eyes open.
No problem, dude. See you later.
Have a good one.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
No problem. Yeah, so I agree. They were a bunch of douches.
Personally, it's almost like, oh, the order got wiped out. Oh, well. Like,
Yeah. Even Mace Windu, though, it's like, you know, I don't know. They all just sucked.
Mace was cool in that last fight, and then
Yeah.
like other things, like not in the movies, but
Yeah.
he really didn't do much.
No. But you know what the funniest thing was? It's like, I think that they got soft, the Jedi, because they had no foes, really, you know?
Yeah.
So I think they just, you know, they got too arrogant, like they're their own, there's nothing like them. And yeah, I don't think anything's happening. Like, all of them didn't see Senator Palpatine coming, not even Yoda. You know? That was, like, ridiculous. They wouldn't believe it until the very end when it was too late. And then that whole thing, like, nobody saw that coming. And that they all got wiped out by, like, stormtroopers or whatever the hell, you know, like the clone troopers.
Yeah. I mean, there was a review that I watched a while ago that was like, you know, if they were able to sense that the dark side was surrounding Palpatine towards the end of the Clone Wars. And they say that in episode 3.
Right.
Why didn't they, like, say, you know what, we need to get a blood sample from him and see if he has a high midichlorian?
Well, could it be that they were just losing the Force?
Well, they implied that Palpatine was so strong that he was able to keep them from sensing him.
Right.
Which, I'm like, okay, but even Yoda, like, how did he do that to Yoda? Like, what?
That's what I don't understand. And then it's like, they know that he's the one. And just because they know, they're like, oh, screw that. He ain't being trained. We ain't going to be killed.
Anakin, yeah.
Yeah, but that, like, you know he's going to kill you then. So it's like, and then I knew it. When you seen the kid give that face,
yeah,
like, oh, they're dead.
Yeah,
I said they're dead. All of them are dead.
The thing is, though, they didn't know that he was going to do that.
No, but when he gave that face, it's like, oh, he's dead. They're all dead.
Yeah.
They're done.
Pissed.
Yeah.
But, like,
you know, but they did too many things wrong with that. And I know what's going on. Like, look, you're selling action figures on Darth Vader, you know, Anakin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to show him kill children? Like, maybe that's not such a good idea. I mean, I understand, you know, he's a villain, you know? But, like, do you want to see? I mean, that was just to me, like, when he killed those Sand People kids, I was like, you know, really? Like, you need to, like, I don't like him as an actor, Hayden Christensen. Like, I was just like, it was not really believable to me. That whole.
I think it was his direction.
I was like, come on. I hate them. It's like, wow. Like some of the dialogue. Like, he killed younglings.
Oh, yeah.
Killed younglings. It's like, you know, it's like he was, I think he said he was laughing in his hand or something.
That's the story. Yeah.
Yeah. Younglings.
That's because they were like, you know,
God,
you can't
George
say
Lucas.
he killed children.
Jesus.
So.
But he did. It's like, hi. But when they showed that video, that was the most ridiculous thing ever. You see, like, the little kids, he's in the room, and you're like the eyes and stuff. That was crazy. I mean, they went in just all the wrong directions, like Star Wars could go. That I guess it was so much of a shock that people really didn't say anything right away until, like, years later. And like, yeah, man, that was bad. It's like, you know?
Yeah.
Let's just hope no more directions like that.
Yeah.
You know? So, The Last Jedi. We're talking about The Last Jedi, but there will be another Star Wars after that, which will be episode 9.
Yeah, I think the direction they're going with this is that they're not going to be like, it's going to be The Last Jedi in the sense that Luke is the last Jedi, because I don't think Rey is going to become a Jedi. I think she's going to become more like a gray Jedi kind of thing. Because I think the idea here is, because at the beginning of the Force Awakens novel, which is canon, they have a poem in there that's from the Journal of the Wills that says something. It basically is describing like the time periods of Star Wars and the movies, and it ends with something like, I can't remember exactly what it says, but it mentions like gray Jedi in there. I really think that this movie is going to, not this movie, but at the end of this series, Rey is going to start maybe a new Jedi Order, but it's not really going to be the old Jedi Order. It's going to be a Jedi Order that is balanced with the light and the dark, so they're going to be gray Jedi, which I'm a big fan of, because when they do 10, 11, and 12, how many times are they going to keep saying, oh, the dark side's back, the dark side's back, the dark side?
You know what? I kind of old-fashioned. I want the dark and the light. Like, just, you can't have it. I don't like this whole new concept that everybody's like, oh, nobody's really evil. People just...
This isn't new, though.
I mean, I just want, this is evil, this is good, that's it.
This was around back in
I know,
canon as well.
I know, but I just don't want no grayness, no different colors. I want the dark and the light, and that's it. Now, could she be a descendant of Qui-Gon?
I guess. But
because let me ask you a question. It doesn't seem like Qui-Gon was too into the rules either.
Qui-Gon was a gray Jedi.
But he was a Jedi.
No, he was a gray Jedi.
He was a gray Jedi.
He was a gray Jedi.
But they called him a Jedi.
Well, because back then they weren't fond of having the name Gray Jedi, but he was. If you ask,
I mean, now they say he's a Gray Jedi.
They don't even say it now, but if you look at the way the way he was,
okay,
his whole philosophy is basically the philosophy of the Gray Jedi.
Which they could be married, they could be whatever. F it.
As long as they're balanced. Here's the kicker: in the old canon, Luke set up a new Jedi Council and a new Jedi Order of entirely, they were all gray Jedi. Because he taught them the dark and the light. Because he said the only way that the Force will not return to what it was,
excuse me.
The only way the Force will not go out of balance again is
right.
if we are the balance. If we can understand the dark and the light.
Right.
And we make that go. And there's 100 friggin' references in the new canon to the dark and the light. Snoke tells Kylo Ren, "You're my greatest apprentice because you have a balance with the dark and the light." Right. Rey has trouble with the dark, but she's also on the light.
Right.
Luke dresses like a gray Jedi. In the old canon, Luke was pushing gray Jedi. You know, and then that poem ends with gray Jedi. So I think that, you know, for 10, 11, and 12, if we still follow Rey and maybe Kylo Ren, who will probably be Solo at that time, I think that they'll be like Gray Jedi. I don't know if they're actually going to be Gray Jedi, but they're going to be something like Gray Jedi. And there's going to be a different, you know, force that they have. Not force, I don't want to say that.
But if there's a Gray Jedi, wouldn't it be like a Gray Sith? Like a Sith that's not, that also practices the light and the dark?
Well, I mean, the thing about it is that they would be the same thing.
Gray Jedi.
I don't think they're going to call them Gray Jedi. Honestly, I think they're going to call them Bendu. Because in Rebels, the Bendu, who's voiced by Tom Baker, he's another reference. He's probably the biggest reference of them all.
Okay.
He says the Jedi and the Sith, they worship Ashla and Bogan.
How's that?
Ashla is the ancient word for light, and Bogan is the ancient name for dark.
Right.
It goes with the old Force thing. There was a planet of Force users, the original Force users. It was called, I think it was called Tython, Tython. And on that planet were basically the beginnings of the Gray Jedi. This was way back before Jedi and Sith, right? And basically what they would do is, the students on the planet, if they found out that you were more focused on the light, they sent you to one of the moons, the moon of Ashla, where the users use the light side. If they discovered that you were more oriented to the dark, they sent you to the moon of Bogan, which was the dark side moon.
Okay.
And then from there, we get the Jedi history in the old canon. In Rebels, he says the Jedi worship Ashla, the Sith worship Bogan.
Right.
I'm the one in the middle, the Bendu.
Wow.
And he even looks at a Sith holocron, and he's not like, oh, this is evil. He's just like, oh, it's just a holocron.
Right.
There's knowledge in the holocron.
Right.
So basically, it's like, this stuff is not evil unless you use it for evil.
Right.
This stuff is not good unless you use it for good. So I think that, and it's really symbolic because you can say Anakin destroyed the Sith and the Jedi.
Right.
He brought balance. The Force is trying to restore balance. And the only way that it can do that is if you have users that are both branded in the light and the dark.
So the moment he killed Palpatine, he wasn't a Sith anymore?
Exactly.
He was what?
He was a Jedi.
The moment he killed Palpatine.
Mm-hmm.
He was
That's
a
how
Jedi Master.
Yeah, he was able to come back as a Force Ghost because he was a Jedi. Because Sith can't do that.
Right.
Well, not the same way anyway.
Okay. Oh, so Sith can't have Jedi ghosts, like ghosts.
Yeah, they can attach themselves to objects, but they can't, like, they're stuck to that object. Like, their spirit is stuck to that object, but the Jedi can retain their identity in the netherworld of the Force.
So does that mean they're weaker?
What?
The dark side is weaker?
Yes, because they can't, not weaker in the sense that they're always weaker, but in that Force ability, the Jedi are untouched.
Okay.
Sith can't touch them with that ability.
I see. So, in other words, if there was some type of object that Palpatine had that survived and went somewhere, it would always be Palpatine would be linked to that object.
Mm-hmm.
I see.
Unless they change that in the new canon.
And there'd be no way that they could get a form again. Like a spirit, like a spirit going into a body or something.
Yeah, unless they do that whole clone thing, like you just said, I don't think they're gonna do that.
Right. Because I mean, I could picture again, and probably ridiculous, but to me, like when you tell me all the stuff about Dark Jedi, like Gray Jedi, I get so I'm like, because I'm just old fashioned. But then I'm thinking, well, what's to them to say in like a movie in the future that they just find a way to come back from the dead just with the Force and just, and then they're all back, Yoda and all of them. It's like, okay,
They could do that, but at that point now it's like, okay, what's going on? Like,
well, I mean, the thing is, first of all, I always believed that by giving themselves to the Force, they never died in the first place. And they just made themselves with the Force. So technically they could come back. That was like my thing, that Ben Kenobi and Yoda could come back. That's in my head because I'm like, they never really died, period. They vanished into the Force. So technically, like a Force could pop them back out if something happened bad that was unbalancing things. Which, again, that's my theory. That's not anybody else's theory, but it would make sense. I don't think the Sith could do that. But, I don't know.
Well, I mean, in the old canon, Yoda and Obi-Wan could only come back a certain amount of times.
In the old canon. Right.
Yeah.
And for some reason, Qui-Gon had the ability that nobody had to talk to people from the netherworld.
Qui-Gon learned from the Wills, apparently.
Okay.
And that's why he...
Before he died?
Well, no, when he died.
Okay.
When he died, his spirit was able to maintain its identity. He learned from the Wills. He can't come back as a ghost, technically.
Right.
Only in a very big nexus of the Force can he do that. But,
Okay.
As far as we know, he can't do that like Obi-Wan and Yoda and Anakin can.
Okay. But he could talk to them.
Yeah. Because he talks to Yoda in Clone Wars.
Okay. Wow.
He tells them where to go to learn how to do it.
Wow. All right. We're going to be kicked out here any second. Thanks a lot, Chris.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye for now.